Hey Bob, Zach Smith, can you hear me?
Yep.
So, I think the challenge is there's just not enough Bob Wreckers, uh, to really put that plot style that you have. I think is fantastic and exactly what needs to be done. It's just, that's great for, LaPorte City and those people that make hybrids in that, um, maturity range or whatever. But until it unless you could get a grant where you could outfit something or get a crew that could go around like what the seed companies do to put plots and locales. I would think there's enough interest in this. I would think one of these seed companies would have to want to bite as far as supporting an effort like that. But I don't know, maybe it's too much of a threat to them with the possibilities of seed rate reduction.
Yeah, I've been surprised at how little interest there is. But then I go back to my John Deere history and the marketing and out at the seed dealer level, their job is to get the seed sold and the crop insurance and this and that, and so that's the way the world works. So I've kind of circled back to the university types, and one of the problems there is they often don't have a lot of resources. They don't have a lot of space, and at the risk of sounding arrogant, which I don't do, a lot of times they don't have equipment that's very relevant to modern farming. Where I've made it an item of pride, and I paid dearly for the ability to say my planter is about as good as anybody's. And I think my cover crop drill's better than most. So what kind of numbers did you get, Lauren, on what people think they're how many
Said you only got Zach Laughlin replied, so
people are just not.
To me, what's the question is how many I think there are or how many I know?
Well,
I know one.
Who's that?
You.
Oh, okay. I thought I missed something.
I don't know if your question was asking how many we think there are or how many we know there are. And
how many you think? How many you think
there are?
Yeah, I do get asked that. I mean, and I don't know. There's a lot of there's a fair amount of buzz in the social media, but you're never sure if those aren't just spectators or what, so and they are heavily oriented to livestock. The folks that want to graze are the ones that take this and want to run with it. It's just that simple. So
well, and in reality, how many of them are still stuck on plots? I guess, heck, I read that article that was just posted about me, and they're still, he's testing, but we did 500 acres this year, so apparently 500 acres is still a plot to some people.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's
you got 5,000 acres, it's a plot.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing, we've been at this long enough. It's interesting, and then reality hits, and it's.
Yeah, well, yeah, and my hope is that people would stick their toe in the water with a little plot. I mean, it's a risk mitigation thing, but the problem with that is it's a pain in the neck. If you're having a tight season and you got things to do, it's extra work. Nobody's looking for extra work that takes time and has a dubious outcome. So
I don't remember what number I told you, but I know I think I could easily, if I put time to it, there's over 200 in the States.
In the state?
Yeah, in the States, United States.
Oh, US. That, yeah, I'm thinking the number is a dozen in Iowa and something over 100 in the North American. I think there's some Canadians that are pretty serious about it.
I'm shocked the guys that are diving in never done it and go full line of equipment right away, but
yeah, well, we'll see. Well, I will know in March if I get a grant that covers a little bit of activity to do this. I'm not quite ready to tackle it just on my own nickel because I'm confident the biggest deal will be people's unwillingness to share information.
So if, I got a question, Bob. When you go to the same population, 90-inch single rows. So you're talking about seed separation of what, 1.5 to 2 inches? That's what you're talking about, seed spacing?
Yeah, and I
just
don't.
wanna understand if I'm in the right ballpark. You're talking about 1.5 to 2 inches of seed spacing, right?
Right, and I
Or
don't.
we're really talking about 5 to 6 on 35, 30 to 35,000 population. So.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
My strong belief is that you must have twins if you're at 90 inches. And then it's basically 2/3 of the 30-inch population. And I think that's workable, Bob, in a row with all kinds of sunlight. So instead of 6 inches, it becomes 4.
Yeah. So what is, you've had discussion with the seed companies. So what do they say about that seed spacing? I mean, they don't care, or the variety dependent, or
Well, they would like to see more. They like 6 inches. That's where they live and die by 6 inches. That's where they want. That's where they want to be. One of the things that was interesting, one of the people in one of our meetings said, people ask them what variety to plant for a yield goal, or no, they say, what population should I put for this variety? And what the seed people said is, farmers should be asking, what population should I put for this field? The field will tell them what the population should be. In Mike Cook's plot this year, we targeted 28,000. I don't know that I've ever planted that low a population on purpose, but it kind of worked better. I think part of our problem last year is we probably had too much population for his poor soil conditions. So, it's being realistic. It's pretty easy to get greedy when you think the number's just 6 times the population. But Bob, I'm trying to think if I had 90-inch twins. I think I did. And I think I would probably include them in the plot. The beauty of them is you can do them with the planter you have in your shed right now. And you almost, and I feel pretty strongly, I want to preserve those 30-inch corn heads that are filling the sheds of the world. I hate to suggest something that a 30-inch corn head won't harvest. And a 30-inch corn head with decent corn, well, is perfectly happy to pick a 10-inch twin row corn. So, but I don't think single row 90-inch, that's just too close. It's a wall of corn. If but again, we ought to find out. We need to find out. And so you got 10 acres, and if in those 480 plots, there's only about 20 instances where that's the combination. Well, it's in 48. It's in 48. No, I never mind. But so you can do some pretty weird stuff, and it's not a big deal. At least you learn something. That to me is the beauty of a plot versus doing a whole hog on the farm.
Luann Rollings there from Ellicott County. You should probably get in touch with her if you haven't, Bob. NRCS up there. I just thought of that. They did
name again?
Luann Rollings. She'd be the DC in Ellicott County. But they've done I know they probably got 15, 20 guys up there alone. They kind of got a group started up there, but they had a SIG grant in that based on, I think it was interseeding and wide rows and a few other things.
That was she's a USDA person.
Yeah.
And
yeah, your front leaf, you should be able to get hooked up.
Yep. Great. Reno, you were going to say something. I think maybe you were muted. You're still muted.
How about that?
That's better.
Okay. On your 90-inch rows, you went from single to twin. How about triple? Can you get an advantage on triple?
That's a very real possibility. I think, yeah, I've toyed with the idea of having a 30-inch twin row. So I got a 30-inch centers and they're two twins. So now I got 4 rows of corn in 40 inches. Okay, and then give it about 90 inches, give it a whole bunch of room. The reason I like 90 inches is I can get a small utility tractor down a 90-inch space, or a gator, where the 60 inches get pretty tight. So you can start to have a real grazing crop and all that. Reno, that there's all kinds of possibilities are possible. I wouldn't, at this point, I've been humbled so much this year by unpredictable results that I don't dismiss anything anymore.
Okay.
Then Noah had a question there, question for the group. Any thoughts on short corn varieties, and is using 60-90 spacing disadvantage, advantage?
The short corn thing always comes up. There are people that are working on short corn. I don't know. I think mixing varieties could be dicey, but it might be okay. That's a non-answer. Sorry. I love the idea of taking a shot at 10 different varieties. I'm just foolish enough. I really want to see that happen.
Well, one thing I'd bring up is go back to that one year here when we had the kind of miscommunication on the plot when I planted it. We went all the way up to 85,000 in row.
Yep.
And or whatever you would call it, or actually it was 190,000 in row. And that's when I still question everybody worrying. You got to focus on the fundamentals first, because the plant will adapt to a big degree. You know, we had from 35 to 85,000 that time was field average, and the plants from one side of the plot to the other did not look like the same exact hybrid, nothing. You know, and the real narrow or the low spacing, they were real wide leaves. The higher the population, that leaf got narrower, longer, more upright, more vertical. You know, a lot of your ratings are going for 30-inch corn. That plant's going to act different in the environment it's put in.
Yeah, and the seed people I talked to said clearly, I mean, there was no doubt, corn has been bred for 30-inch rows, and to embrace this would take, to really optimize it, would change some of the corn breeding. Frankly, that's probably part of their hesitation. It's like John Deere deciding the 2-cylinder tractors had reached the end of the road, and they, or, you know, it's only with great hesitation that a company like Deere says, okay, we're going to terminate this product line and replace it with another one. They're a lot happier tweaking what they have than they are starting over. And I think the seed companies are the same place. They got years and years, you know, volumes of data. Yeah, but they are clear that they don't think today's corn plant is optimized for what we're talking about here. Clearly. Like trying to make a 2-wheel drive tractor work in Europe. Been there, done that. Non-MFWD, I should say. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up. Lauren, you've been most helpful.
That's about the most fun blocking hackers I've ever had. The question is, how do we avoid that in the future?
Well, what we're going to do in the future is it's going to be an Eventbrite subscription, and you'll get a code, and there'll be a price of admission will be your detailed information, I think. But so okay, I'm going to stop recording, and anybody that wants to jump off can. I've chewed up an hour and a half of your time.